Hello everyone, welcome to Officers Atta 24/7. My name is Soumya Prakash and this is English channel of JAIIB CIB. If you have not subscribed to the channel, then subscribe the channel, and as you all know that we have started our champion series where we are discussing the units of different subjects that you have to study for your JIB exams. So now we are heading towards May 2025 exams, and you have still not uh, started your preparation, then it is the right time that you start your preparation because you have got four subjects, and in total of all these four subjects, you have around 165 units. So with this series, you can start your preparation, and today I'm taking up another unit, which is Unit 9 of Principles and Practices of Banking. And Unit 9 is all about operational aspects of NRI business. So please share the link of this video with all your friends, colleagues on WhatsApp, Telegram, or Facebook groups so that they can also benefit from this particular series. So let's begin today's session on Unit 9. So what is FEMA? In the last unit, we studied that FEMA replaced FERA. FERA was Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, and that was replaced by Foreign Exchange Management Act. Why this regulation changed to regulation was replaced with management? And why this was done? This was done because India, after new economic policy, after 1991, it adopted new economic policy. In new economic policy, there were three pillars, which is called LPG, and LPG stands for liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So these were included, and after globalization, there was huge flush of capital which was coming, and it was required that the transactions which was regulated earlier, that should be managed now so that the flow will help India to achieve its balance of it will eradicate its balance of payment problem which was there in the 1980s, and also it liberalized some of the regulations of foreign exchange, and this made the transactions remittances very easy for the uh, Indian res Indian residents as well as NRIs. So FEMA empowers RBI to frame regulation to restrict, regulate, and prohibit the maintenance of deposit between a person resident in India and a person resident outside India. Also, when regulation changed to management, that is when it was changed from FERA to FEMA, the foreign exchange offenses became civil. Earlier it was criminal offense, but now it was changed to civil offense. These facilities generally are available to non-resident Indians, person of Indian origins, and overseas citizens of India cardholders. So their overseas OCI cardholders are also eligible. PIOs are eligible, and NRIs are eligible. And we know that we have a huge diaspora of NRIs living outside India, and they are sending huge amount of money to their family relatives who are resident here in India. And this allowed that transactions become little easier in these with these countries. So what is an NRI? Although NRI is defined in the previous unit, I'm just taking the few definitions which are given regarding NRI PIO. and OCI, because the accounts which we are going to discuss in this particular unit, the different accounts which we open for our foreign citizens, not foreign, we cannot say foreign citizens, but yeah, Indians who are living outside India. They may be NRI, they may be person of Indian origin, or they may have OCI card with them. So what are the regulation for that? NRI and Indian citizen staying abroad for 183 days or more in one financial year, he or she will be known as non-resident Indian. PIO, NRI, when we are talking about, this is non-resident Indian. PIO are a person of Indian origins, and this means a foreign citizen except national of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, China, Iran, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and Nepal, who at any time held an Indian passport. So, person of Indian origins are people of, except this is the exception, but they held Indian passport at some point of time, but now they are holding passport of a different country now because they have chosen to become citizen of another country. So one is they they were holding Indian passport, or who, or either of their parents, grandparents, great grandparents were born and permanently resident in India as defined in Government of India Act 1935 and other territories that became part of India thereafter, provided neither was at any time a citizen of the aforesaid countries. So if their parents, grandparents or great grandparents were permanent resident of India and now the children have shifted to another place, they will be known as person of Indian origin, or who is a spouse of a citizen of India, or a PIO. If anyone is a spouse of, one of the spouse belongs to India or is spouse of a PIO, they will be also termed as person of Indian origin. What are the permitted accounts that we can open for NRI, PIO and OCI? So there are mainly three kinds of account which we can open. One is known as non-resident external rupee account. We will see when we will go through the accounts one by one that why it is non-resident external rupee account. Then we have FC NRB account. This is, in short, we call this NRE account, non-resident external account. This is in short called foreign currency FCNRB account, FCNRB account, and the full form is foreign currency non-resident account banks scheme. And third is non-resident ordinary account scheme, and this is in short called NRO accounts. So we will see what are the features of non-resident external rupee account. First of all, who are eligible to open the account? So authorized banks will be ADs, authorized dealers can open, and certain other banks, including cooperative banks who are allowed by RBI, they can open NRE account. What kind of account one can open in NRE? It could be saving account, current account, recurring or fixed deposit. So all the four variants of the deposit account can be opened. Can this be opened jointly with any other person? Yes, two or more NRI or PIO can open the account jointly, or NRI plus non-resident. So it could be NRI plus NRI, it could be NRI plus resident Indian. Any of the relative, very close relative, they can open joint account with NRI, and in that case the account will always will be in the former or survivor basis. Not any other mandate is allowed. Only in case of NRI plus resident Indian, F and S is allowed. former and survivor basis. Former will be the NRI and survivor will be the resident Indian. Resident Indian can operate as POA holder. So they can have joint account, former or survivor, or NRI can give power of attorney to the resident Indian, and there are few transactions which are allowed and there are transactions which are not allowed to POA holder. So what will be the allowed transactions? Allowed transactions to the POA holder, if resident Indian is a POA holder of the NRI account, then he or she can withdraw for local payment. If any kind of local payment is to be done, then for that particular purpose withdrawal can be done. Second is remittance to account holder himself. Suppose the NRI is holding any account in foreign, suppose he is from US and in US bank he has another account, so resident Indian can transfer the money to that account also. Make permitted investments in India. There are few investments which are allowed by RBI. So through that account, permitted investments can be made here in India in different securities. What are not allowed? The POA holder will not be allowed to open NRE account. He himself cannot open NRE account. Second is repatriate outside India except to NRI account holder. So as I told you that if NRI is having one account in US, any of the bank of US, then resident Indian who is a power of attorney holder, he can transfer the amount to only his account. It cannot be transferred to anyone else's account. This is this repatriation is allowed to the NRI account holder's account. Make payment as a gift to a resident. POA holder cannot make payment to as a gift to any other resident and transfer fund to another NRI account. So another NRI account is also not allowed to the POA holder. What are the permitted transactions in saving and current account in case of NRE? So if someone has opened savings or current account under NRE, then what are the permitted transactions that is allowed? There are uh, some of the credits which are allowed and there are some of the debits which are allowed in the NRE account. So first is cross-border remittance, both inward and outward remittance outside India are permitted. Inward means, suppose if we take example of US and India, so inward means coming from US to India and outward means going from India to US. So both inward remittance and remittance outside are allowed. Permitted credits will be remittance in any permitted currency. Suppose permitted currency means there are few currency which are permitted by RBI. There are so many countries and there are so many currencies. Not all currencies are allowed to get credited. That is why it is written permitted currency. There are few convertible currency for which RBI is having their exchange management possible. Only those currencies are allowed and that is why not all the currencies are allowed. So remittance to India in any permitted like US dollars, Canadian dollar or Singapore dollar or Australian dollar or Japanese yen. These are few of the currencies which are allowed for transactions. So remittance to India can be in these permitted currencies. Foreign currency bank notes on temporary visit If somebody is visiting, if NRI is visiting to India, he wants to deposit that amount. Suppose he is carrying cash with him, and after reaching India, he wants to deposit that money in the NRE account. That is permitted, and for that we will need currency declaration form. In the last unit, we have seen that the NRI has to get this currency declaration from the custom authorities, and that needs to be presented in front of the banker. And AD is satisfied that account holder is non-resident. Here, whenever we will be saying AD, you have to think of it as bank. AD is authorized dealer. Interest on the account, any kind of saving interest, that is permitted as credit. Current income in India after tax, if there is any current income in India, maybe from any of the institutions. It could be rent payment, it could be anything else, any securities which they had bought, and they are getting benefit of that. That can also be, so any kind of current income, and for that tax will be deductible if there is income from India. Transfer from other NRE, FCNRB accounts are allowed. Refund of application earnest money purchase. So what kind of refunds are allowed? Suppose somebody has applied for applied for DDA flats. DDA flats are Delhi Development Authority flats. They sell there, the government, this government authority sell flats to resident, to people here in India, and for that, for registering for those flats, you need to deposit some earnest money. If you get the allotment, then that earnest money goes to the government. If the allotment is not made, then that gets paid to the applicant. So if there is any kind of payment which is going back to the applicant, if NRI is an applicant in this case, then that is allowed in NRE account. Permitted debits. What are the permitted debits which are allowed from NRE account? Local disbursement. If any local payment has to be made, that is allowed. Remittance outside India is allowed. Transfer to NRE FCNR account of any person eligible to maintain such account. So any other person's NRE FCNRB account can also be credited, and this account can be debited for that. Fixed deposit. You can have, as we have seen that in NRE we can open savings account, current account, TD as well as RD. But for fixed deposit, that is TD account, it should be minimum of 1 year. It cannot be of less than 1 year. Interest on debit deposits are allowed to be debited. Sorry, interest on deposits. What are the framework for interest on deposit that the NRI will get on the NRE account? In savings account, it will be as per domestic savings. If the savings account is giving, domestic saving account is giving 3%, then NRE saving account will give the similar percentage. TD account will vary on account of tenor or for bulk deposit. We all know that we have different rates for different tenor. That is, for 1 year to 2 year, interest rate is different. For 2 year to 3 year, it will be different. So this will be applicable in case of NRE TD account also. And we also know that for normal deposit, which we do below 3 crore, now for bulk deposit, we need at least 3 crore. Earlier it was 2 crores. So for both the deposit, bank gives different rate of interest. For bulk deposit, the rate of interest is different for different tenor, and for below 3 crore, that is which is not bulk deposit, the interest rate is different for different period. So that will also be applicable to the TD account in case of NRE account. Ceiling not exceeding of compatible domestic TD. If suppose 1 year TD is giving 7% return, this is domestic TD. In case of domestic TD, if 1 year return is 7%, then NRE TD for 1 year cannot be more than 7%. It should be less than or equal to 7%. So it is not to exceed comparable domestic TD. Additional interest like we get for staff benefits or for senior citizen, that is not permitted in case of NRE accounts. And periodicity of interest payment will be on savings account, it will be on quarterly or shorter interval. Now comes FCNRB account. Eligible banks who can open FCNRB accounts, it can be maintained with authorized dealers or authorized banks which are authorized by RBI. Designated currencies are currencies currently freely convertible currency. As I told you that there are few currencies which are freely convertible and only those currencies are allowed for FCNRB account. Type of deposit, as in the NRE account, we have seen that we can open savings account, current account, TD and RD, but in case of FCNRB account, we can only open only TD account. RDs are not allowed. So this is important. Minimum tenure will be 1 year to maximum 5 years. In NRE also, it was 1 year. It should be minimum 1 year. But in case of FCNRB, maximum is 5 years. Interest rate payment will be both floating rate as well as fixed rates are permitted. For floating rate, we all know that in case of floating rate, whenever bank provides floating rate, there is a reset period. Reset period means it then again reset itself with the current benchmark uh, rate. So that reset period is given to be 6 months. Reference rate, like in case of loans, we have reference rate MCLR or RLLR. Similarly, for uh, floating rate in case of FCNRB, we will be having reference rate as overnight alternative reference rate, which is for the respective currency, swap rate quoted or displayed by Financial Benchmark India Private Limited. So this will be, it will be decided by the reference rate overnight alternative. So what is reference rate will be depend on which currency, in which currency the customer wants to open FCNRB account. Is it US dollars? So the swap rate of INR and USD will be taken. If it is euro, that rate will be taken. If it is Australian dollar, that rate will be taken. So that will depend on the, and this is displayed by Financial Benchmark India Private Limited. Ceiling of interest rate, permitted markup on reference rate, where it is less than 3 years. Where it is less than 3 years, then the reference rate plus 2.5%, and if it is 3 to 5 years, if it is 3 to 5 years, then reference rate and up to 3 point plus 3.50. It is written up to. Up to means it could be less also, it will depend on the bank at what rate they want to give, but the maximum will be 3.5 rate above the reference rate, and in case of deposit for less than 3 years, it could be maximum 3.2.5% above the reference rate. It cannot exceed that. Now comes NRO account. So NRO account are non-resident ordinary accounts. Non-resident ordinary accounts. Who are eligible for opening non-resident ordinary accounts? Again, AD. AD is authorized dealer. Other bank authorized to maintain non-resident accounts, and post offices in India. So in NRE and FCNRB, we have seen that post offices were not allowed. But in case of ordinary account, NRO account, post offices are also allowed to open NRO account. Any person resident outside India can open, and a foreign national of non-Indian origin visiting India. So here, what this mean is Indian who is living abroad can open an NRO account. And suppose, what does this mean? A foreign national. Suppose a German national, anyone who is from Germany, he is living in India for any kind of employment. Suppose he is in India for 1 year or 6 months, living in India for employment. Then they can open NRO account. Type of account will be again saving current TD and RD. And here fixed deposit tenor is 7 days. In case of FCNRB and in NRE, we have seen that it is minimum 1 year. Interest rate, saving rate as per domestic rupee saving rate, whatever domestic saving rate is, according to that, they will get in NRO account. Term deposit will depend on the tenor of the tenor of the deposit. Ceiling cannot be higher than for comparable rupee TD. Again, ceiling means that if in 1 year domestic TD, we are offering 7%, then NRO for 1 year cannot be more than 7%. So it should be less than or equal to 7%. Interest on saving at quarterly or shorter interval, same was in the case of NRE account, and these are few parameters on which NRE, NRO, FCNRB can be differentiated. Deposit in NRE account, foreign currency can be deposited because NRE account is opened for savings of foreign currency in Indian rupees here in India. NRO account are open in both account will be in Indian rupees and Indian currency is allowed. FCNRB is allowed in convertible currency. So all the currencies which I have named, these are some of the convertible currencies in which FCNRB can be opened. Taxation, NRE account are not taxable, NRO account are taxable, and FCNRB are not taxable. Repatriability. In case of NRE, it is fully repatriable. Repatriable means that this can be taken back to the country where the customer is living. The NRI is living. It can be transferred to that particular place. So this is in case of NRE account, it can be fully repatriable. It can be sent to that place. There is no restriction on it. But in case of NRO, there is limit of up to 1 million USD per financial year. And FCNRB also, it can be fully repatriable. Account type, in case of NRB, it is saving current TD-RD. NRO, saving current account TD and RD. And FCNR, only TDs are allowed, even RD is also not allowed. So let's do some questions to understand what we have done so far. Which of the following is true in respect to NRE accounts? Joint accounts are permitted for 2 or more NRIs. Joint account are permitted for NRI and or PIO with a resident relative on either or survivor basis. During the lifetime of the NRI or PIO, the resident relative can operate only as a POA holder. All are true, only 1 and 3, or 2 and 3. So which of the following statements are true? As we have seen that joint accounts are permitted for two or more NRIs, this is true. Joint account are permitted for an NRI with a resident relative on not either and survivor, but it is former and survivor basis. So this is not true. During the lifetime of NRI or PIO, resident relative can operate only as a POA holder. So this is also true. So true are 1 and 3, and 2 is not correct because it is former or survivor basis. The resident POA holder is allowed to open a NRI account, repatriate fund outside India to another relative, withdrawal for local payment, make payment as gift to a resident on behalf of the account holder. So in all of these, what are the allowed transactions to a POA holder, resident POA holder in case of NRI account? So right answer will be withdrawal for local payments is allowed. Mr. A, an NRI visited your branch for opening NRI term deposit for 1 year. The domestic TD rate for 1 year is 6.5%. What could be the rate on NRI TD of 1 year? Less than or equal to 6.5%, 7%, both less than or more than 6.5%, none of these. Mr. A, an NRI visited your branch for opening NRE term deposit for 1 year. The domestic TD for 1 year is 6.5%. What could be the rate on NRE TD for 1 year? Less than or equal to 6.5%, 7%, both less than or more than 6.5%, none of these. As we have seen that it will be less than or equal to 6.5%. Which of the following is not correct? FCNRB deposit may be in any of the currencies designated by RBI. FC and RB are permitted in any freely convertible currency. FC and RB are permitted as TDs and RDs. Tenor of FC and RB is from 1 year to 5 years. So which of the following statement is not correct? As we have seen that FC and RB are not allowed as or RD, only DD is allowed. So right answer will be C. Which of the following are not correct in respect to NRO account? Any person resident outside India may maintain account for bona fide transactions denominated in Indian rupees under non-resident ordinary account scheme. AD other bank authorized to maintain non-resident account and post offices in India are allowed to open an RO account. Current account, saving account, current account, TDs, RDs are allowed. Minimum tenor should B, 1 year. So in respect to NRO account, which of the following is not correct? This is correct. This is also correct. And in case of NRO account, this is also correct. But tenor should be, it minimum is 7 days. So D is the right answer. That D is not correct. Which of the following are correct? NRO current saving account can be opened for foreign nationals of non-Indian origin visiting India with funds remitted from outside India through banking channel or by sale of foreign exchange brought by him to India. The balance in the NRO account may be paid to him when leaving India if held for not exceeding 6 months. When foreign nationals leave India after their employment, the resident account held in India is permitted to be re-designated as an NRO account for collection of pending bona fide dues in India. The amount repatriated abroad should not exceed USD 5 million per financial year. All are correct. 1 and 2 are correct. All are correct except 4. All are correct except 1. We have seen a little bit of whether foreign nationals are allowed to open account here in India or not if they are visiting India for temporary employment. What will be the right answer? So right answer would be all are correct except 4 because it is not 5 million, it is 1 million which is allowed. So right answer is C. And that's it for today's session. If you have still not downloaded the app, our Adda app, then download the app because you get a lot of information there. And if you have started your preparation or you want to start your preparation, then you can join us and will be, because this is not the complete unit. I've not covered the complete unit because it is difficult to cover it in a single session. And for that, we have already launched our increment batch. First of all, if you have not downloaded the app, then download the app. You can download it through Google Play or Apple Store, and then you have to go to all courses, JIB, CIB, go to JIB May 2025. Here you will see that there are JIB Mahapack and increment batches are available in both the languages. In Mahapack, you get the benefit of all other courses which we launch, like crash course or revision batches. If you want to go by the increment batch, then click on the increment batch and go to buy now. Here you have to use the code Y9 Y984 to get the maximum discount, and when you will apply, you will see that you are getting the maximum discount. So with that, I'm signing off for today, and I hope this session will help you, and we'll see you in our paid classes where we will be discussing everything in detail and start your preparation.